Well, Lucas, I'm glad you could join for this conversation. I'm excited to glean from your learning. I always feel like as I get to do these interviews, it feels like free consulting that I get to experience. But also it's great. It's blessing to our community. So we're going to be talking about B2B sales for SaaS startups and SaaS companies. And so yeah, Lucas, will you introduce yourself? Kind of tell us a little bit about your experience in this space.
Yeah, thank you, David. So yeah, my name is Lucas Muniz, and I currently have my own business. It's called Sales Network LLC, and the business is a consulting for SaaS companies who want to scale their sales. And doesn't matter, no matter what growth stage this startup is at. We basically find out exactly where you are, what the best next steps are going to be, and even if it relates to, let's say, if you need some help that's not specifically for sales, we partner up with whoever is needed the most. Let's say a marketing agency, if that's the case, or just guide you to the next step if we can help. But usually, there's always something sales related that needs to get done, before the company reaches that next stage. So yeah, I've been working in sales for the last 20 plus years. I used to work even, when I was a teenager with my dad, and worked in different industries and myriad different industries. Worked in tech long time ago. The times of, not sure if anyone is here familiar with Borland, Cool Gear. That's when I was introduced to tech sales, and then I worked in different industries and came back. So I chose software as a service, B2B, just because I noticed that a huge amount of, let's say, majority of cases, the processes can be replicated. And even with all the personalization, even all with the nuances of each case, at least, let's say, the rules that I talk with, they usually apply pretty well across, across all the different SaaS products. So yeah, I'm here matching challenges with tech solutions.
No, I love that, Lucas. And I appreciate that. Yeah, like you calling out even that, yeah, while each of our businesses we have like nuances and unique things about them, but those same principles, just like in our framework, the same principles of growth apply at different stages. Same thing you're saying. It's like, hey, you may be offering a different product or a different promise, but the process, the principles of sales, and especially these B2B SaaS sales, they apply broadly. And so you're helping people see through all of the chaos and clutter and go, hey, these are the things that you need to double down on. This is how we're going to help you get there. And that clarity is so valuable. So I'm excited. Let's just kind of dive in to talk through some of these stages here as we exit adoption with we get to that ideal month. The next stage is sustainability, which is trying to take that ideal month and make that the every month. And that doesn't mean the revenue like lives flat. Like sustainable, we really think of it as sustainable growth. And for a lot of businesses, hey, you can just live here. Like you don't have to leave sustainable growth. Like that's still a good business to own. Now we're going to talk about scalability and saturation and events here in a minute, but sustainable growth is a really good place to be because it means you're covering your costs. It means you're increasing your revenue over time. But a lot of this time, just like you were saying, adoption, you have to set those processes. Well, really now here in sustainability, we're optimizing those systems and processes. We're tightening them up where both our delivery gets better, and our quality gets better, but also like our mistakes get fewer, you know,
Yeah,
and maybe our time to close gets shorter, and we're really trying to optimize that. In there and really figure out, hey, where can we maximize some ROI, particularly in our sales process. But when we're walking a company through, we're looking at sustainability across a number of different facets of their business, but particularly in the sales aspect. And for since we're talking about B2B SaaS companies, what are some of the things they're looking at to optimize their sales and this sustainability? So they've reached their economic milestone, and now they're really trying to make that thing run, on its own, and to become more efficient. What are some of the questions they need to be tackling? What are some of the resources they need to be accessing, or pitfalls they need to be avoiding in there?
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah. I would say now it's very customer centered because now after, the adoption already, you already conquered some, a slice of the market, and you were pretty confident of your message and you build a pipeline. Now you got to also make sure that you are not losing that the customers that are coming in. So got to make sure that they are being helped, that the customer success, that's your focus, right? The account management, the customer success, building a strong brand, which is completely tied to the way that you treat your customers. So, and also sales operations, because now you already track metrics. So you track metrics on the adoption stage, and you start realizing that some part of your sales operations could get better because you've been tracking those metrics. So by not making the mistake before of not tracking anything, by tracking the right things at the right time, now you have intel that you can, as a more established company, you can count on a of course, a better team, a bigger team, a better team. So there are people that can do something about it, that can use those metrics and make it everything sustainable. Because one thing that you don't want to see is just the churn rate going high. Now that okay, we got adopters, but then the churn might start going high. But even if it's not going, you got to know it. You got to even know why you are succeeding. So this stage, how, as you said, you talked about maximizing the ROI, right? Like especially with the customer lifetime value. So okay, our customers, this is the way that they are buying our product. You already noticed that some of them, they need some extra services, some integrations or some professional services, and you start actually developing all the products. I mean, if you want, because some companies, they just no, I don't want to do with anything. So, but if you want to keep most leads, not only convert them but keep them, you might think of adding some extra services or adding some capabilities and features and making your products, that helps with the brand as well, making sure that you are seen as someone who is always solving their problem, not only someone who solved one problem and that's it, and they can't keep looking for the next thing. You're trying to keep them from looking for the next thing because you are always the next thing. So yeah, so basically that's how you should see maximizing the customer lifetime value. Basically, building customer loyalty has everything to do it as well, right? With everything I said right now, with understanding how you can provide value the most to them. So this way, you start understanding also how long the customers stay with you, and that's how you can create predictable revenue. Because okay, now I have metrics from the adoption stage, like how to focus our efforts. We already try and error. We already tried different ways, as you said, like maybe you tried conferences and it didn't go well, or you tried some ads and it didn't go well, and you see things going well. So you had metrics already that on the lead generation side, you already know what to expect a little bit. And then you start understanding also from account management perspective, what is working, how long they're staying with you, if something's cheap, should be cheap, something is too high cost, and you might have to work on the pricing a little bit. So those strategies, those strategies, they start getting more solid once that you understand your customers, your account base, once that you have really the expertise of account management. focused on the customer service. So this way you can also better your sales operations as well. So this way, hey, we gotta start paying attention to what the next stage is going to be, because if we're gonna scale, we gotta make sure that we have even the right software for that. Because sometimes you started with something a little simpler with the whole structure that you have, including the software structure, might have to change a little bit because you started with something that it was lower cost because you needed lower costs. But now that you're focused on the sustainability and you're preparing for the next one, you pay attention to other parts of the sales operations, and also you kept track of the right metrics from the previous stage, and now you can react to that.
Hmm. Yeah, no, and you kind of named this in there that there's a shift, I think, in sustainability to from that working in the business to really working on the business. And like you said, you're trying to optimize these processes. You're looking at, even though you're delivering SaaS, you're kind of looking like, hey, what are the tools we're using to sell? And like, do we have the right CRM? Do we have the right, all these different, whatever our tools are, our different outreach tools, our different even teammates? Like, who do we have the right talent for this stage? So you're asking those kind of questions around your sales process. But I like how you called out, yeah, avoiding churn, which gets us back to that recurring revenue. It's like, hey, if we want that recurring revenue to stay, and it gets us
Yeah.
that lifetime value, just like that loyalty. And so really that shift into customer success. I love how you framed it of always, you're the person who's always solving their problems. That you are the next thing because you're staying ahead. I think that's a great way to position. We talk about that a lot in our cohorts about like establishing community around the problem that you're solving and say, hey, we're here to fix this for all of us. And you're kind of leading that charge in a way, even if you're not the one who's, you're serving that community, but you're kind of rallying people around, hey, we're trying to make life better for people like this.
Yes.
So no, I like how you called out some really actionable specifics in there in that sustainability, because to a large degree, sustainability, it's not that it's super complicated, but it requires some discipline, right? Where it's like, hey, we have to keep paying attention to these things and keep doing them consistently over time. Lucas, is there, as you see that, because the hard part is up to this point, we have like, we've talked about existential, where they're like, what's this thing going to be? To discovery, to like, oh, what are we going to sell? To like adoption of like, how do we find all these customers? And then sustainability can almost kind of feel like a downer a little bit, although it's nice that revenue's coming in, but it's not like if you're the go charge into the unknown entrepreneur, sustainability can be really hard because it's not, I mean, there's still some unknown, but to a large degree it's like making the known effective and efficient. And so are there some things that you see entrepreneurs who have more of that, like, take new ground, do the new thing, where they maybe kind of self-sabotage a little bit from a sales standpoint here? You kind of mentioned like adding new features, which can be good, but can also like confuse or bloat. But like, are there some sales like pitfalls in sustainability, especially having that person who's kind of been the like, hey, let's go do something new, let's do something that's never happened before, and now they're in a more um, improve the current status stage a little
Yeah,
bit.
absolutely. One of the most necessary things at this stage is you've got to fall in love with the customers. You got to fall in love with the customers from the perspective that
Yeah.
it's not only about your product anymore. Of course, you are adapting your product and you're doing more offerings and you are always evolving your products. But as I said at the beginning of this stage, is more customer centered. So
Yeah.
think the sustainability as the customer centered. Why? Because they are the ones who are going to make your brand strong. They are the ones who are going to keep you alive in this,
Mhm.
this concrete jungle. That there are always competitors coming up, and
Mhm.
if you're not ahead of the game, you're going to be swallowed, and not in a good way, because sometimes you do want to sell the company to a bigger one, but not in a good way, in the sense of your competitors actually putting you out of business. And the only way for you to keep sustainability is for you to follow to be customer centered, to make sure that you are ahead of the curve, because new ideas will come all the time and new companies will grab their attention like, oh, what's
Mhm.
this? But as long as they feel safe with you, safe in what way? That you are doing the best to get ahead, to be ahead all the time. So like, hey, they're launching this, but we're launching this next month as well. We've been working on the same thing. Oh, okay, okay. So they might think twice instead of just jumping to the next thing. Plus, you already conquered, you already got the respect. They noticed that you want the best for them. If you really take care of this stage, if you really are customer centered, you focus on the customer success, they're not going to risk. They're going to think twice before risking, their part of their business operations to a new company that they don't know they're going to work with. They already like you.
Yeah,
You're
very
already
true.
treating them really well. If you're doing a great job, they're going to think twice before jumping to the next thing.
That's good. And I like that kind of reframing of, hey, there's still a lot of adventure to be had, but it's in learning your customer and really helping them thrive and grow because as you're delivering a SaaS solution to businesses, those businesses ideally are using it to grow. And so their complexity and their problems to be solved are changing and evolving, even if you're in a tight niche, like it's going to change over time. So, all right, so that's sustainability. And again, sustainability doesn't even have to end. It is like one of those stages that you can go on indefinitely because we call it this growth spiral where you're
Yeah.
continuing to improve and iterate. And that can be a great business that you can own for a lifetime that you can pass on as a legacy. But sometimes you go, hey, we want to go from sustainable business to a saturation level business. And to get there is another kind of like adoption was a transitional stage up to sustainability. Getting to saturation, scalability is our next stage. It's our transition up to saturation. Well, I just want to say thank you for spending this time and really blessing our community with your expertise. And I'm glad you're with us on the platform so people can come and find you if they want more and really get to leverage your expertise. So I appreciate it.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to doing more of these type of things together in the future.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Also, we passed the time quite a bit.
Yep.
Appreciate the conversation, and thank you as well for being a great host and for making my messages a little concise, a little more concise. Thank you very much.
No, I love it. That's awesome.